Let's react.
This is the song that changed everything. Let's be honest, the moment that guitar comes in, it's over. You don't even need to hear the vocals yet. You don't even need context. You don't need an explanation. That intro alone tells you this band is serious. And the crazy part, that was their first album. Incredible. I could not believe that myself. Not their third, not their finally found their sound album, their very first album. That is just crazy. We are talking about Boston and their debut record, Boston. The one with the spaceship guitar on the cover that basically screams, yeah, we're not normal. And here's the thing I've always thought. Boston didn't fail to escape their first album. They just made it too good. Now, imagine being in a band and your first record includes the songs More Than a Feeling, Peace of Mind, Foreplay, I think it's Foreplay, yeah, Smoking. That's not a debut, that's a greatest hits collection you got right there. Most bands spend their whole career trying to write one song that lasts 40 years. Boston walked in with 4. That's like showing up with your first driving lesson in a Ferrari. I love it. Where do you go from here? A slightly shinier Ferrari? And this didn't happen by accident. At the center of this whole thing was Tom Scholz. Now, Tom wasn't just a guy with a guitar, he was an engineer, literally. The man was building gear in his basement, recording tracks piece by piece, layering guitars like he was stacking harmonies in a cathedral. He didn't just write songs, he engineered the sound. That huge, smooth, almost space-like guitar tone. Love it. That wasn't a studio trick. That was obsession. And obsession is dangerous in a good way. Because when you obsess over your first album for that long, you end up with something ridiculously polished. And when your first album sounds polished enough to be your 5th, well, now you've created a problem, a monster, literally. A very nice problem, though. Let's talk about the second album for a second. Don't Look Back. It sold millions too. Most bands will sell their drum kits for that kind of success. But what did people say? Yeah, but it's not the first one. And that's not criticism, that's human psychology. When something hits you the first time, especially when you're young, it attaches itself to your life. That first Boston album wasn't just music, it was driving with the windows down, late night radio, first loves, first heartbreaks, first proper speakers shaking your bedroom, and your parents coming in saying, turn that thing down. You can't compete with a memory like that, even if the music is just as good. And here's something I actually admire about Boston. They didn't chase trends. They didn't suddenly go disco because disco was hot at that time. They didn't suddenly try to be punk. They stayed Boston. They stayed true to their roots. That signature, clean but heavy, melodic, powerful sound, they stuck with it. And sometimes sticking to your identity is harder than reinventing yourself. But here's where the pressure kicks in. After that first album exploded, the expectations were insane, as you can expect. The label wanted more, faster, bigger. But Tom Scholz, he doesn't work fast, he builds, he refines, he tweaks. The man is a genius. You don't rush a perfectionist. That's like saying to a chef, can you just undercook it slightly? No, Tom is not wired that way at all. And when perfection takes time, fans wait. And when fans wait, expectations, they grow. And when expectations grow, well, comparisons get louder. Then came third stage, almost 10 years after the debut. And guess what? It produced songs like Amanda, number 1. So clearly, they still had it. But again, and you can probably guess the line, it's not the first album. That first album had innocence. Not amateurish innocence, but discovery innocence. The band discovering itself. The world discovering the band. And you don't get that twice. It's like a reaction to the first time you hear a song. You can't get it twice. I don't think Boston were trapped. I think they were permanently linked. There's a difference. When a debut becomes iconic, it becomes your shadow. Not a dark shadow, a glowing one, so to say. It follows you everywhere. Every time you release something new, people hold it up next to the original, like, okay, but does it make me feel like that? Michael Jackson had that too. That's an impossible question though, because feelings don't repeat on command. Let's talk about Brad Delp for a moment. Brad Delp had one of those voices that just worked. Clear, high, emotional. When he sings, more than a feeling, there's no strain. It doesn't feel like he's trying to impress you. It feels natural. It's diamonds in your ears. And when you combine that with Scholz's production, you get something timeless. That's not luck though, that's chemistry. And chemistry like that is rare. Now, here's something funny. If Boston had released that first album as their third record, people would probably say, finally, they perfected their sound. But because it was their first, it became the standard by which all the others were going to be judged by. And standards are heavy things to carry. But think about this. How many bands would love to be stuck with one of the greatest debut albums ever made? That's not being stuck. That's being legendary. When someone says Boston, you don't hesitate. You immediately hear that intro, that lift, that chorus, that Brandon on another level. They didn't need to reinvent themselves every 5 years. They already carved their name into classic rock. And maybe that's the reason they never escaped it, because they didn't need to. They had already arrived. Some bands, they climb. Some bands, they evolve. Boston launched. And when you launch that high, everything after feels like cruising altitude, even if it's still amazing. I don't think this is a story about decline. I think it's a story about timing, talent, and lightning. The mid-70s were ready for that sound. Not too heavy, not too soft, not too weird, just right. Boston found that exact sweet spot. And when a band captures that moment that perfectly, it becomes frozen in time. It's in the best way possible. So when we say Boston could never escape their first album, maybe we're saying it wrong. Maybe they didn't escape it because they didn't want to. Maybe that album became home, and home isn't something you escape. It's something you carry. Because decades later, you put on More Than a Feeling and it works. Still sounds big, still sounds emotional, still sounds like someone in a basement built something massive out of pure belief. And that's kind of beautiful, isn't it? Sometimes once is enough to light up a whole career. And that's what Boston did for us. I hope you enjoyed that. My name is Harry. If you did so, I hope you subscribe and become a part of the family. Also, we have a membership where you get to decide what else we talk about next, or what topic we do, or what band we focus on. So check out our membership. There are other perks as well to go with it. Stay good, stay safe, and I'll see you all later. Take care. Bye.